Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions now are faced with a very tough decision. We have an enemy that came with the intention to fight, to kill. We did not go with the intention of having a war or a fight. We have very light weaponry. We have a very small number, 313, 314. And for the first time, actually, the majority of that group are from the Ansar. The number of believers, the number of muhajirin in that group of 314 was about 70 to 77. And that leaves about 230 or 240 some of that group from the Ansar. Let's go back and remember what was the agreement between the Prophet ﷺ and the Ansar. The agreement was very clear. You are going to support me, you're going to protect me, you're going to defend me within Medina. You're going to defend Medina, our city. There's no term in that agreement that says you are going to go with me out of the borders of Medina and fight with me out of the borders of Medina. So now this is uncharted water. This is a totally new situation. Therefore, the Prophet ﷺ called for consultation. He said, this is the situation. What should we do? Most of the companions said, let's go back. Let's go back to Medina. This is not the goal that we went for. We are not prepared. Our number is small. Our weapons are very light. There's a large group behind us in Medina. Let's go back and get support for this. And this is not the answer that the Prophet ﷺ was expecting. So he called one more time. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, this time he understood what the Prophet ﷺ is aiming at. And he told the Prophet ﷺ, we are with you. Whatever you decide, we're going to follow. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, Jazakallah khairan, this is great, that's fine. And then he called again, tell me people, what do you think? So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu stood up and he said, Ya Rasulullah, as sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as Abu Bakr said, we believe in you, we follow you, we support you, whatever you decide, we're going to follow. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Jazakallah khairan, this is great. Tell me people, what do you think? What's your opinion? Two great leaders have spoken, but still the Prophet ﷺ is asking for opinion. So a third one, Al-Miqdad ibn al-Aswad, also known as Al-Miqdad ibn Amr. His original name is Al-Miqdad ibn Amr, known as Al-Miqdad ibn al-Aswad, who was a strong warrior, and he's one of the two riders, the two horsemen in this group. He told the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, go wherever you want to go. Even if you go to the farthest place in Yemen, we are going to follow you, and we're not going to tell you, since they have been listening to the Quran being revealed and the stories about the previous nations, the good examples and the bad examples. He said, we are not going to tell you as the people of Sayyidina Musa told him, you go and your Lord and fight. We are going to stay behind. اذهب أنت وربك فقاتلا إنا هاهنا قاعدون. But we're going to say, اذهب أنت وربك فقاتلا إنا معكما مقاتلون. You go and your Lord and fight, and we're going to go and fight with you. We are going to support you, and we're not going to go away. We're not going to run away. We're going to be strong, and we're going to be supportive. And the Prophet ﷺ was very pleased with what he heard. But still, the Prophet ﷺ said, great, Jazakallah khairan, this is great. Oh people, tell me what you think. There's a certain pattern here. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is a muhajir. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu is a muhajir. Sayyidina Al-Miqdad radiallahu anhu is a muhajir. Who hasn't spoken yet? The people that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is waiting to hear from, the bulk of the army, the majority of the army, 4/5 of the army. So Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Mu'adh radiallahu anhu got the idea. He understood what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is asking for, and he said, وَكَأَنَّكَ تُرِيدُنَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if you mean us. Do you want to hear from us? And the Prophet ﷺ said, yes. He understood that the previous three speakers were muhajirin, No Ansari has spoken yet. And maybe the Prophet ﷺ wants to know what is the opinion of the Ansar, because now they are asked to go beyond their agreement with the Prophet ﷺ. If they said, sorry, that's not part of our agreement, that would be fully understandable and no one can blame them, because again, the agreement was very clear. A deal is a deal. But now Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, radiallahu anhu, the leader, the respected leader of the Ansar, he said, Ya Rasulullah, you came to us. We followed you. We supported you. We believed in you. And we are willing to do the same under any circumstances. Ya Rasulullah, if you go and cross the sea, we are going to follow you. None of us is going to stay behind. لو استعرضت بنا البحر فخضته لخضناه معك ما تخلف منا رجل واحد وإن لصدق في الحرب صبر عند اللقاء. And we are people who are very truthful when it comes time of war, and we are very patient when we face our enemy. So سر بنا على بركة الله. Take us wherever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands you to go. لعل الله أن يريك منا ما تقر به عينك. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show you from us what pleases your eyes. And the Prophet, this is exactly what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to hear. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard that, he smiled, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, appreciated what Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh radiallahu anhu said. Now Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh is a very prominent leader of the Ansar. And he is speaking not only representing himself, but he's representing all the Ansar. And to show how followed he was, none of the Ansar said anything else. So the Prophet ﷺ was looking at the people around him, reading the faces, and he saw all the faces are agreeing. This is exactly our opinion. So now what the Prophet ﷺ wanted, the whole army is one block. It's not 80,000 that were condensed into 4,000 and then remainder was 313, 14. No, we started with 313. We have a block of 313, all of them with the same belief, with the same feeling, with the same expectation. And the Prophet ﷺ smiled and told them, victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming. Let me show you where the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are gonna die. Here, this leader's gonna die. Here, that leader's gonna die. Here, the third leader's gonna die. And the Prophet ﷺ pointed different locations. The narrators of the seerah say later on that each one died exactly in the location that the Prophet ﷺ has pinpointed. So the Prophet ﷺ told his companions, now let's go and camp here. Let's be separated from them with this water pond called Ainu Badr, the water pond of Badr. Badr was the name of a leader of a tribe who basically dug this well and made this water pond. So it was known for that leader. And the Prophet ﷺ said, let's camp on this side. They're going to be on the other side. Let this water separate between us. So a young companion of the Prophet ﷺ, again from the Ansar, who was an expert in desert warfare, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, I'm not going beyond my limits, but I have just one question. أَمَنْزِلٌ أَنزَلَكَهُ اللَّهُ أَمْ هُوَ الرَّأْيُ وَالْحَرْبُ وَالْمَشُورَةُ? Is this a location that has been prescribed to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to camp? Or is it open for negotiation and discussion based on military strategy and give and take? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, بَلْ هُوَ الرَّأْيُ وَالْحَرْبُ وَالْمَشُورَةُ. It's just based on military strategy and I'm open for suggestions. So Al-Hubab radiallahu anhu, Al-Hubab ibn Mundir said, فَلَيْسَ ذَلِكُمُ الْمَكَانِ. This is not a good place. And then he started giving the justification. He said, this army has been traveling from a long distance. They're tired, they're thirsty. And we also have traveled, not the same distance, but water in the desert is the most valuable commodity. Let's go and camp beyond this water pond. And let's actually backfill this water pond. Let's make a water basin, fill it with water so that we can drink and they can't. We can give water to our camels and our animals and they can't. So once they become thirsty in the desert, that's the first weapon of defeat against them. And the Prophet ﷺ looked around, everyone saying, yeah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, this is a great opinion, let's go ahead and do that. So the companions of the Prophet ﷺ moved their camp and they moved beyond that water pond. They backfilled it, made that basin, so only that basin had water enough for that army of the Prophet ﷺ to drink and to use for domestic use and so on, or for daily use for wudu and so on. And the other army is going to be deprived of that water. Now, Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Mu'adh again comes to the Prophet ﷺ with a proposition, saying, Ya Rasulullah, you know that, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you know that we have come and followed you, but we have left many of our brothers back in Medina. There's no time to go and seek supplies, but at least you are the leader. We want you to be safe. Can we build you a shed to protect you, especially from the arrows and from any aggression from Quraysh? We know that they're going to be seeking to kill you. You are the symbol, you are the leader. So we want to protect you. Can we build you a shed so that, alhamdulillah, if we are victorious, alhamdulillah, that will be great. And if we are not, at least you can retreat back to Medina and get more supplies to fight this enemy. The Prophet ﷺ said, Jazakallahu khairan, this is a great idea. We can do that. So that was on the night of the 17th of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ had left Medina on the 8th of Ramadan. The travel took some time, the camping took some time. So now about 9 days later, and now remember that Ramadan of the second year of the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, this is the first fasting Ramadan. The fasting of Ramadan has been prescribed just very recently, less than a few weeks ago. So now the Prophet ﷺ allowed the companions to break their fast. This is a decisive day. We cannot be weak. We cannot be exhausted. We need to be as strong as we can, because this day has its consequences. If we are defeated, that's going to have very dire consequences. But if we are victorious, that is going to have great consequences. So the companions of the Prophet ﷺ built that shed, and the Prophet ﷺ went to that shed to pray and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for support. Now think about this crossroads in the history of Islam. It is made by two armies, two opposing armies. One with 313, 314, and one with 1,000 people. Compared to modern warfare, this is nothing. 1,000 people, this is nothing. 313 people, this is absolutely nothing. However, the history of Islam revolved around these 300 people. Therefore, we find the Prophet ﷺ in his supplication asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma anjiz li ma wa'adtani, Allahumma ansurna, Allahumma ayyidna, Allahumma. He keeps asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, give us victory, oh Allah, give us support, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me what you promised me. Oh Allah, if this group of believers is killed, you will not be worshipped on the face of this earth after this day. These are the only true believers on the face of this earth. So Islam, of course, in addition to the ones back in Medina, but again, in this situation, if the Prophet ﷺ and this group is killed, that would be the end of Islam as we know it. Because the religion that was given to Sayyidina Adam, to Sayyidina Nuh, to Sayyidina Ibrahim, to Sayyidina Musa, to Sayyidina Isa, and has survived for these so many centuries, from time to time it would be modified, it would be changed until a prophet comes, rectifies things, brings things back to the straight path, and then the people after him would change that faith and so on until the next prophet comes. Now the Prophet ﷺ is the last prophet. No one is coming after him to restore that faith again. So if that faith is terminated on that day, that'll be it. That will be the end of the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endorsed and approved for mankind. So the Prophet ﷺ was so persistent in his dua sallallahu alaihi wasallam, raised his arms to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in supplication to the extent that the garment on his shoulders sallallahu alaihi wasallam fell from his shoulders. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is watching how the Prophet ﷺ is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the deepest of his heart about support on this day. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, now look, it only took 2 years or 2.5 years. In Rabi' Awwal, 2 years earlier, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, when he was in the cave, Ghar Thawr, with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he's the one asking, Ya Rasulullah, لو نظر أحدهم تحت قدميه لرآنا. If one of them looks under his feet, they're going to see us, they can kill us. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam tells him, Ya Abu Bakr, ما ظنك باثنين الله ثالثهما. Oh Abu Bakr, what do you think about two? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in their company. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the third. So they're not going to be able to calm down. Everything's going to be fine. Now Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is telling the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he understood the lesson. We're not two anymore. We are 313, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let us down. So he tells the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ya Rasulallahi, بعض مناشدتك ربك. Oh Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, get some rest. You have done everything that you could, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let us down. It was something beautiful to hear from Sayyidina, because the Prophet ﷺ knew that. Of course he knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let us down, but hearing that from Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and seeing the full understanding of the power and support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Wallahi لكأني أنظر إلى مصارع القوم, as if I'm looking at where these enemies are going to be killed tomorrow. So now, on that eve of the 17th of Ramadan, with the supplication of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, something very strange would happen. Someone would imagine that this is a group of people who are outnumbered 3-1, outweaponed. The weapons of their enemies are much stronger than theirs, and so on. They're scared, and as you know, if you are scared or if you're worried, if you have something to do the following day, you wouldn't be able to sleep. You would spend the night thinking about multiple possibilities, what if, and you wouldn't be able to sleep. Someone would be able to sleep only if they feel safe and comfortable without any worries. So in the battlefield, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent sleep to the army of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of them, with the exception of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who kept praying and supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they all fell asleep. Deep sleep, not just dozing off, but deep sleep. They slept, they dreamed, they had a very deep sleep, and then they woke up. Now they woke up with a new feeling, a feeling of safety, a feeling of comfort, a feeling of support, a feeling of confidence and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they woke up, some of them needed to take a shower to be able to pray. Now, there's not enough water for that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send heavy rains. They would fill their pots, they would drink, they would take their showers, they would make their wudu. And most importantly, that heavy rain made the soil on which they were stepping very firm. So the camels, when they walk, their hoofs wouldn't sink in the soft sand. Now the soil is firm enough. Strangely enough, on the other side, it's just a few meters separating them. Soil conditions were quite different. The soil became very muddy, and instead of being firm with the animals being able to step on it easily, now people's feet kept sinking in that mud, and it was very hard for them to move. Quraysh sent one of their scouts, Umayr ibn Wahb, a very smart person. They sent him to explore how many are the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So he went and took a very large circle around the camp of the Prophet ﷺ, and he came back with the news. He said, well, I just went around to make sure that there are no additional supplies, no one's hiding, and I counted, it's about 300 people. But let me tell you something. These are 300 people who do not care. These are 300 people who are willing to die. Their camels are carrying death. He said that رأيت النواضح تحمل الموت الناقع. I saw these camels carrying death. These are people who are willing to sacrifice themselves for their leader and for their faith. And if each one of them kills one of us, that would be a disaster. It means that 30% of our army would be lost, and our reputation, our pride would be lost. So my advice, he said, my advice is let's go back. Let's go. Let's retreat. There's no need to fight. Several people in Quraysh had this same idea. We don't want to fight. But one person only wanted to fight. That's Abu Jahl. He insisted on, we have to fight, we have to fight. So Hakim ibn Hizam, the nephew of Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha, a non-believer and one of the leaders of the army of Quraysh, said, my advice, we're going to face our brothers, our cousins, our relatives. There's no need to kill our relatives. Let's go back and retreat. And then he went to Utbah ibn Rabi'ah and told him, Ya Abul Walid, can I ask you a favor? And Utbah said, please. He said, you are a very well respected and trusted leader. Would you be willing to take care of the blood money for the person who was killed in that expedition, Ibn al-Hadrami? Would you be willing to pay the blood money from your own wealth and prevent this war from taking place? He said, of course, I would like to do that. So he went and said, oh people, let's go back this year. There's no need to fight this year. And I am willing to pay the money from my own wealth. So Abu Jahl, who didn't want that to happen, looked at him and he said, when you saw Muhammad and his army, you became weak-hearted. Your lungs filled with air, انتفخ سحرك, which means as a sign of fear, especially that your son is on the other side. Abu Hudayfa, your son, is in the army of Muhammad. You don't want to face him, you don't want to kill him. And he kept inciting the other people and charging them, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's have a major confrontation. Let's stay after we kill them for 3 days and slaughter camels and have a festival and have a big celebration so the Arabs would hear about us and no one would dare come and fight us anymore. And he kept charging the people until people now are ready to fight. And Utbah didn't like that. He hated Abu Jahl. But again, he said, well, I can't do anything more than that. Now, the two armies are ready to face each other. The believers with the promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the non-believers with all of their arrogance and thinking that they're going to be able to exterminate Islam. So now this is a milestone in the history of Islam. Inshallah, next time we're going to talk about the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called the decisive day, Yawm al-Furqan, the day of separation, the day of division or separation between the truth and the falsehood, the first major confrontation between Islam in its final and finest form and disbelief in one of its worst forms, the army led by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam against the army led by the person who was described as Fir'aun هذه الأمة, the Pharaoh of that nation, Amr ibn Hisham, Abu Jahl, la'anahullah. So inshallah next time we're going to talk about this confrontation. We're going to talk about some of the ayat that were revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commenting on that day and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supported the believers in a way they did not understand, but they expected. They knew it's going to happen. How? We have no idea. However, we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not let them down. So inshallah, until next time, we will talk about the Battle of Badr, the first major battle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam against the non-believers. So until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.